Wandering through the great plains of life, things move fast, sometimes a blur. Don't you let this bumpy road separate you from the herd. And when you think the day is done, the sun is getting low, we're all looking for something rare, the great white buffalo. The Great White Buffalo Podcast with Ben Mayfield.
Welcome to another episode of the Great White Buffalo Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Mayfield, and ladies and gentlemen, today it is 2023. And so how do I start off 2023? Well, obviously, my bestie for the restie. And I want to say this because you said this, and I did not prompt you.
Okay.
We were talking to some students, and they were like, "Oh, Nathan, have you been on the Great White Buffalo podcast?" And you said, without me like prompting, I wasn't even like kind of in the conversation. You're like, "Well, I'm basically one of the hosts of the show." And I was like, all right, like you've taken some ownership into it.
I have,
And I want to introduce Nathan Diggins. How are you, Nathan?
I'm great. How you doing, Ben?
Because to me, you've always been like, yeah, man, like whenever you need me, yeah, whatever.
Absolutely.
But it felt like at that point you're like, oh, I'm a Buffalo baby.
I mean, I am. You sold me. It's not that I never believed, and it's not that I was never into it. It's just, at first I was like, okay, yeah, I'll be a part of the experience. I'll see how it goes, see what we do. And then it just became this regular part of the life, it felt like. And I was like, well, when are we going to podcast again? So now it feels like I have no ownership. This is all your thing. But I'll say like 20%. I just kind of feel like, all right, let's take some ownership, Nathan. Let's get it going. Let's get it back there.
Because to me, I don't know if you feel this, it's almost therapeutic sometimes because you're like, we just get to talk about either like spiritual topics, or we're talking like just funny stories, or we're goofing off, or we're interviewing somebody. So it's a therapeutic thing of just, I don't know, just it's an art form almost. Like, you know how some people will paint or some people will draw. Mine, and I think you as well, as people and connecting with people, and that's podcasting for us.
Well, it's therapeutic in a way, but then it's also, I get excited being able to help and being able to be a part of something and being able to care about people. And I love the podcast and how you bring people on, even if it's just us two, but being able to kind of just check in with people and get to know them and do all that. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah,
one of my favorite parts of not just 2022, but since I've been doing the podcast, is the people who listen. Like, shout out to all the listeners for real, because y'all will come up to me at the most random times and either ask about a certain episode, they ask about a guest, or they'll go, when's the next episode? And it's just like, oh, you listen to this? Like, I had no idea. Okay, yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's coming out soon. Have no plans to make one. So that's just always just been super encouraging, is having people just reach out and be like, hey, I want to listen. And it's also kind of weird because I have some friends from like the 4-H world, or different parts of my life that I've done, different events, who've asked about you, who don't know you. Like, they've never met you in person.
That's funny.
And they're like, dude, that Nathan guy rocks it. And I'm like, how do you know Nathan? And in my head, I'm going like, you didn't go to North Georgia. You're not from Lumpkin. Like, how do you know? They're like, well, because I listen. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that, yeah.
I guess there are listeners.
So I'm like, all right. But who don't know you, but who've enjoyed your insight on a lot of topics. And for 2023, this is exciting for me, is we are now doing video. So if you're on Apple and Spotify, which is the majority of our listeners, well, I know because it's our very first video, so every one of our listeners has done audio only. But part of my goal for 2023, it's been my goal since I started the podcast, but I just haven't had the equipment or the know-how.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning. Don't get me wrong. I'm not the best with the producing and the editing and the technical side. I do this because I had the creativity side and the artistic wanting to do it. Yeah. And I'm trying to learn the producer side. But we have video.
And we're figuring out the best way that it looks best, whether the camera needs to be lower, higher,
Yes.
Those are little things. And depending on if this episode comes out on video or not, there will be video coming very soon.
When we have a super nice camera and we have like the equipment, but I don't know all the settings. And Nathan's right. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I kind of want to see what it looks like, we're going to be on YouTube, Great White Buffalo Podcast YouTube. And so look it up, and this will be the first video. And we talked about getting like some lights, because right now, if you're watching us live, or not live, but watching the video, maybe the lighting isn't the best. Maybe it's not as artistic. I don't know. But
or maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll
work on it.
Would it be better if the camera was just like lowered so it's facing us directly from that distance, but you can still see the wall? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true too.
I don't know.
So let us know though.
Yeah.
Like make a YouTube comment or DM us on Instagram. Like let us know, because if like I listen to podcasts every single day that I drive, not every single day, and I always listen to it on YouTube. And sometimes like I had the video playing, and it's easier. It's just you just click on it. It's just there. Sometimes, like when you're at a red stop, you kind of look at the video a little bit. And like, oh, like, okay, that's what they're doing. Or they have like a funny graphic. We don't have all the graphics and stuff, but it's just really, that's how I listen to it. So I'm really excited to kind of just offer that for people who would want to do that.
Absolutely.
So we're having video, and you get to see the studio, at least this side of the studio. We have different artsy stuff, and so now you can kind of see what people have painted and made. Like this is. When I first started, I got this one, but the rest of the stuff people have made, and so we appreciate when people make art stuff for us. Anyways, so that's one of my goals of 2023.
Yeah,
is get the video stuff rolling.
Well, tell us, okay, not to jump on here, but there's a sign right behind the camera that y'all cannot see, but it says Dr. Ben Mayfield. Tell us about the end of 2022. Now you were going into 2023, and you said you have some goals or some things that you want to do.
Dude, this is what was really crazy, and I've talked to Nathan off air, so he knows most of this. But when I started working as a youth minister, even as a school teacher, I remember my first year as a school teacher, I had some teachers that were both like North Georgia with me, and I said, hey y'all, like we're teaching, it's great, we should start a cohort together and get our master's degree. And they were like, Ben, it's our first year, like why wouldn't we just like wait a couple years? Like multiple people said that to me. I was like, well, one is a pay thing, like we will get paid more money if we have a master's degree, and two, it's like, why wait? Let's just do it, let's just get it done, like let's just do it now. Like we're in the school mode. And I couldn't get anybody to do it. And then, so I didn't do it. And when I started working at the church, I had some time, and I was like, if I feel like the quality of work that I produce is on a master's level education, degree, not that I have to have it for validation, but just for, the professionalism, then I want that piece of paper to say that I had that quality. Right? If I'm a teacher and you feel like your level of teaching is a master's level, degree level teaching, then you should have the paper to back that up. And so I was like, all right, that was my mindset. So I did that. I went back to school and got my master's. And that I graduated in December. That January, I'm talking to my dad about, do I get my specialist, go get my doctorate? And my dad's like, go get your doctorate. It's about the same exact time, and one's a higher degree. So I said, okay. So I started that January, getting my doctorate.
January of what?
Of 2020. So right before COVID started. And I had my first anxiety/panic attack I've ever had in my life. And I've told my youth kids this. I was in Walmart, and it was my first class in my doctorate program. And it was a paper that was like a 20-page paper. And my master's, the longest paper I wrote was like maybe 8 pages. It was mostly like lesson plans and like teaching and doing all that type of stuff. And so maybe they didn't do, anybody who's listening right now is like, and my master's, I had to write 100 pages. Oh, well, I'm so sorry. My master's was easier than yours. But it was like a 20-page paper of things. I have not written a paper that long ever. And like I didn't know, and I'm freaking out. I've told everybody I'm getting my doctorate. And then I felt like this pressure of like, well, what if I drop out? What if I quit? And then everybody I just told was like, oh, you're a quitter, or you couldn't handle it, or Ben couldn't shake it, or y'all can see y'all ripping on me like, oh, there's Ben, the wannabe doctor, couldn't do it. So I had all these thoughts in my head Right? I mean, like, really though.
But for you, yeah, I remember you talking about this, and it was like, Ben, no, like, not that no one cares, but it was like, what we care about is you, and whether you do a doctorate or not doesn't, like, you getting a doctorate doesn't make you more special to us for some reason,
Yeah.
or
Doesn't
you
make
not
you
getting one.
love me more, Nathan.
we don't love you any more, or any less, no matter you have a degree or not. But
that was my
yeah,
insecurity.
yeah. No.
And so I had to pay. I called, and I want to shout out. I'm still doing shout outs. Shout out to Becca Davis, because I called her before. I already talked to her once about the program, and she told me all about it. And I'm saying, Becca, I'm freaking out. Like, and I was literally in Walmart incoming, like hyperventilating, like sweating, freaking out, all these scenarios, like everything, like the aisle kind of was like turning, almost like a little vertigo of like, just like, what is going on? Spinning a little bit, not like 360, but it was spinning. And so then I call her, and she's like, just write a page. You know, and just chip at it. Just take a deep breath, write a page. And then write a second page. Like, and I know it sounds dumb, but I was like, all right, whatever. And so I kind of got calm, and she kind of called me, and she's like, you know, and she told me not every class is like this. And I go and I get back here, and I'm like, I don't have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed with it, but I think I still struggle with like focusing on something that long.
Yeah.
And so, but I started chipping away with it, and I wrote the first page, second page, and I ended up writing the paper. I submitted it. I got an A. And I was like, what in the world? I got an A? Like, on this paper? Like, surely, like, in my head, I was thinking, like, my English classes when they would just rip apart my papers. And, like,
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, you know, I didn't use the proper grammar, or I didn't put a comma here, or something. I was like, no, you got an A. That's great. I was like, what? And so I started doing each class, and then it got to a point where the dissertation was the last part of this past year, the 2022, was all dissertation. And I was chipping away at it, and there was some grammar stuff, some writing stuff, but it was just going with it. And I finally, and my professor was not the best professor. He was a nice guy, but he was a full-time school teacher at a high school, and he was a cohort leader for doctorates on part-time. And so you could tell he was like, yeah, I'm really busy right now doing my actual job. Whenever I can get to you, I can get to you. And I'm a guy who likes to ask a lot of questions. And I don't know if anybody who's listening right now is like, I ask a bunch of questions, either to professors, employers, and not out of like insecurity, but if I'm going to make something for you.
Out of clarity.
Out of clarity.
Yeah.
Thank you. Not out of insecurity, but out of clarity. Of like, because I don't want to do something, and I put all this crap, you know, hard work into it, and then you go, I wanted red instead of blue.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Well, you didn't say that. Like, clarify. And he didn't give me that. And so part of me was really struggling because my dad is getting his doctorate. I'm sorry, I'm kind of monologuing here about this.
It's perfect.
But my dad was getting his doctorate, and his person would email him like every day. They would talk, and he would like, my dad would brag like, "Oh yeah, my professor called me today. I was seeing how I was doing." I was like, "My guy has not talked to me in 2 months."
Yeah.
And I submitted it at the end of February, the first part of it, and he did not contact me or get back with me until May. And that's a long time.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Yeah, it looks good." And I was like, oh, okay, like kind of freaked out.
Yeah.
And I was like, the whole time, like this anxiety of like, am I not going to do it? It's like, am I going to have to not graduate this year, maybe graduate next year? And so all this is building up. And then finally, I had my final defense in November, and I defended it, went well. The guy was super nice. It was like 45 minutes, maybe tops. And he just let me kind of say it. You get to like do like a PowerPoint over the paper, and then you have to do the PowerPoint has pretty much the paper on it, all the elements of the paper in the PowerPoint, whatever how you would say that. And I defended it. It was over Zoom. He's like, "All right, sounds great, man. Looks good. Let me be the first one to tell you, congratulations, Dr. Mayfield." And I was like, "Okay." And he asked me like 2 questions, and I crushed them because they were like super easy questions. Like, why did you choose this topic? You know, why are you passionate about this? Like, okay, crushed it. And I'm not wanting people to listen and going, oh my God, getting a doctorate is super easy. It's not, but it was just like one of those God moments of like, Ben, I'm going to carry you through this. Like, in my head, I imagined that there was 10 people, and they all had robes, and they all had like swords, and they're like, you have to answer this question right. If you're not, I'm going to take an arm off. You know, like, it's like kind of build it up in my head that it's going to be like just something just so terrible that they're out to get you. And this guy was actually super nice about it. He's like, I know you're a hardworking guy. I've read your paper. I think you have really clear elements here. You had all the things that we required within your rubric, that you had, and you're passionate about it. And so I was like, oh, I mean, yeah, I am, all those things. And now I'm done. I am Dr. Ben Mayfield, Reverend Dr. Ben Mayfield, if you want to get super technical about it. And what I was telling Nathan was, if anyone's out there has had something that's like a project or a short-term, job or position that's like super stressful, or just maybe it's something like a relationship where you are just like in a rough patch. But when you get through it, I don't think you realize how rough it was until you get through it sometimes. And I got through it in this past like Christmas holidays. I have felt this relief. I have felt this anxiety, this stress, this apprehension. I don't know, all this words that just suck. And like if you put it all in a ball and then just like threw it away. Like even today, like Fridays are my off day from work, but they're usually my school work day. And today is the first time that like a school would be back in session, because Christmas holidays you'd be like, okay, I'm on Christmas holidays. I don't have any schoolwork to do. I don't have any school stuff. I have no schoolwork to do, or to think about, or to even like go, well, you can have this Friday off, but don't forget you gotta get it done by next Friday, or whatever. It's just gone, and I feel so free. I feel so burden ridden that I was really praying with God, and I was like, God, what can you speak to me with this freedom? Like, what can you speak to me? And he was like, Ben, all those little side missions, little side quests that you've been neglecting to do the main mission, I want you to complete those. I want you to work on those. And I think for me, and I've been praying about it, trying to discern like what all those side quests are. Some of it's home improvement, which I've talked about, and I've neglected some home improvement stuff. Some of it is the podcast, because I am absolutely passionate about the Great White Buffalo podcast. And I love the listeners. I love creating content. I love talking and all this stuff. I literally dedicated my main bedroom of my house, my master bedroom, into a studio because I love it so much. But I'd neglect it because I'd just be stressed out, or I don't got enough time. And I'm like, now I do. So that's a side quest that I'm going to do. Home improvements, Great White Buffalo. My relationship. I have not dated. I haven't had a serious girlfriend in a very long time. And I think part of the reason is like, I don't know, I got schoolwork to do, or I got this thing to do, and I'm just not in the right mindset. Now I'm like, dude, you are in the right mindset now. Like, you don't have this big distracting thing on it. Not that I'm like, I've had girls just throw themselves at me, and I'm like, I'm not a doctor. Yeah, I can't date you. But now I'm just like, I'm kind of more open to it. Like, I kind of want to go on dates and do things like that. So there's just a lot of like really cool things like that I'm just. And there's probably going to be more that show up. And the last little thing I'll say, too, is we're doing star words at our church. Like, it's a word that's on a star, and you get it in January, the first Sunday. And it's supposed to be the word of the year for you. And I kid you not, I'm not just messing with you. We did it on Wednesday for the high school Bible study. And I pulled it up, and my word was freedom. It was random. I mean, it's randomized. There's over 150 different words, and they're all face down, and you just pick one. And mine was freedom. And I think that's like not just freedom from graduating with school, but I think it's a freedom that, like, I don't know. I think God's trying to provide, and growth. I think growth can happen when there's freedom. I think that word is deeper than just like you don't have any more chains.
Yeah.
But like identifying what chains are, getting rid of them, but also like how can you help other people experience freedom and get rid of their chains? And maybe that's through the Buffalo podcast, maybe that's through ministry or whatever it may be. But how can you help the freedom that provides for other people? So I'm really going to dig in. When I read scripture and I talk to people, I'm going to try to get the word freedom to be like kind of ingrained into there. Because my favorite word is the word intentional. I think it's the best Christian word there's ever invented. And it's the word intentional, because without intentionality, a lot of things can't happen. Most things won't happen if you're not being intentional about it. And so I'm going to try to be intentional about experiencing freedom and seeing how God uses that.
Yeah.
So that's my monologue. I'm sorry that was a little. Oh, I'm not sorry for saying it. Actually, that's another thing too. Sarah Kate, shout out to Sarah Kate, who listens, by the way, because we talked about her. She said like a couple episodes ago, you and I were talking about how she said my type of girls are girls named Ashley, which I think is hilarious. But she told me, she said she's like you and Nathan talked about that. I was like, how did you know that? She's like, I listened to the podcast, man. And I was like, oh, okay. So shout out to Sarah Kate. She said, Ben, stop apologizing for things. Like, because the other day, this was, I guess, about 3 months ago at Bible study. I was like, I'm sorry, guys. Maybe I'll read the Bible, but, we're going to read some scripture. And after, she's like, why did you say I'm sorry to make you read the Bible? And I was like, I don't know. Just like, they've just been in school all day. And they probably don't want to read. I get that, but it's a burden that we should all really, it's not really a burden, but it's something that we should really, strive to do. She's like, but don't apologize for it. It's Bible study. They're literally there to study the Bible. Why wouldn't they read the Bible? She goes, like, and there's other ways, like you always apologize. Just be you, and don't be apologetic about it. Now if you hurt somebody, apologize for that or whatever, but don't make that a normal vernacular in your thing. And I do that a lot. So to be more bold, be who I am, and work towards it.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's gonna be a great year. What about you? What is your 2023? Because have you had any side quests you've neglected, or the main quest? And even though I'm on camera here, I have to do this. So this is the first time I've ever had to like step off camera. So.
Oh wow, here we go. Usually you don't get to see this. Ben usually gets up and walks out of the room and then just comes back whenever he's like, "Oh, is it my turn again?"
Yeah. Well, the computer goes to sleep, and I have to see what our time is. So.
No, I think there probably something. I feel like as every year I get older, just like everybody else. It's not that the new year doesn't mean...
Wait, what? You get older every year?
I know. It's not that it doesn't mean as much, but it becomes another day. And to me, it's, the last, I'd say, 4-ish, 5-ish months have been kind of hard in our community. And there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on, and people getting hurt in the hospital or people dying that were close. And so it's one of those things that for me, it's just recognizing how short life really is. And now that I'm getting, older, and I don't feel old or anything like that, but just another year around the sun, I'm realizing, wow, life is just so precious and so quick. And so just for me is, there are things that I want to accomplish in 2023. There are things that I want to do. There are things that I want to progress in and become a better disciple, better steward of my time. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm really just trying to lean on trying to be as content as possible. Kind of what Paul talks about, that the secret to life is being content, whether you have or whether you have not, or whether you're hungry or whether you're well fed, or whether you have money or whether you don't. The secret of life is being content. And I think, I think that would be, that's a challenge for me. I feel like it's a challenge for a lot of people because it's hard to be content. What is content?
Like, explain, because what is your definition of content?
Okay, my definition, and this
other
is...
people might not, when they think of content, just accepts it.
Well, this is my, going from the lens of kind of what Paul was talking about, Christianity with God, is that basically trusting in God, knowing that God is a good God, and knowing that God is all powerful, all knowing, all loving, that God desires a relationship with us, that God will be there with us even unto death. Doesn't mean that, it's not that you believe in God and all the great things will happen to you, or, you put your trust in God and you'll get everything you've ever wanted. But knowing that God is so good and trusting in that that no matter what life, like no matter what stage of life I'm in, no matter what life brings towards me, no matter if I'm sick or if I'm well, if I'm whatever it is, that I'm content, meaning that I'm trusting and found purpose, and I know that this moment right now, that life ultimately, God ultimately is good, and that God will bring me through anything. Doesn't mean that, again, it's going to be the way that I want, but being truly content, being okay, even when you have something or don't. I mean, that's just being content. That's the basic definition of is I'm okay whether I have or whether I don't. That, and when you bring it in for the Christian perspective, that God is good.
Yeah.
Even when I can't understand it, even when it doesn't make sense, even when I'm sad, even when I'm uncomfortable, even when I pray or do the same things over and over again, and it doesn't seem like things are, you know what, truly being content. That, and I think that's a challenge, and it's hard. It is intentional, like you talked about. So I don't know. I think that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, I think, as human beings, maybe even in the Christian circle, but truly meaning it.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's been a whole nother level of really trusting God and really trusting that God is good and being content, whether, again, I woke up I haven't been sleeping well the past, I don't know, couple weeks or whatever. And there was one night I was just laying up in bed and I was like, I just started kind of getting a little anxious because I was like, man, I'm 35. What do I have to signal for my life? I don't work a job that I get a pay raise every year. I'm not.
You don't have a doctorate.
Yeah, I don't have a doctorate. I don't. I'm not. I started thinking on the kind of the very basic level of like, all my friends are at this place in life, or they're making six figures at least, or they're doing this and they're able to buy this and they're able to do this. And all of a sudden I was sitting there and finally eventually I went to sleep, and the next morning I woke up and I was like, kind of how foolish, like how foolish to think that I don't have much to say for my life because I don't have a six-figure job or all these different things. And it was kind of like, even if I had those things, that wouldn't bring me peace in life. The things aren't going to be able to bring me peace. And so I just realized, man, life is so short. I mean, you can have six figures today and be dead and gone tomorrow. And it's like, okay, not that having six-figure job is bad, not that it's not bad, to do it, but it's like, where does my hope, where does my trust, where does my life come from? And I don't know, I think in 2023, I just want to lean into what it truly means to be content with the Lord, content with life, to truly be content.
Yeah. And I probably need to challenge myself to do more of that in my life, because I became a reverend and a doctor last year, which was really cool on some level. I'm proud of myself. I'm not trying to take that away. And I appreciate all the people who've loved me and supported me and helped me every step of the way. But also, like, if I wasn't a reverend and if I wasn't a doctor, I'm still loved. Like, I still matter. And I think sometimes, someone the other day was like, Ben, have you ever thought about, like, doing something different, going like higher up? Because there's not a lot of ladders to climb within youth ministry. Like, it's not like you can get the next, level, get the next pay raise. It's you've leveled off. Like, there's not, like, unless you go to some ginormous mega church, maybe the youth ministry gets paid more or whatever. So there's no corporate ladder to climb there. It's like, so what are you gonna do? And that kind of like made me have to think about, like, well, am I trying to climb a corporate ladder? Like, is that really where I'm at right now? Is that really what I need to be doing? And I got some friends who make some really good money. I have some friends who don't make so much money. And I go, they're still my friends. They were friends before they had those jobs. They're my friends after they had those jobs. Maybe sometimes they might want to go spend some money, and I'm like, let's not go. I can't go through that. But that's even rare. And so, just know that like God created you on purpose and for a purpose, and like only you can fulfill that purpose. And like it doesn't need materialistic, or it doesn't need some type of accolade to make you more than. And it's hard, it's easy to say now on a podcast, like when you're in the thick of it, of life, you know, you kind of forget that sometimes. But just to be more intentional about being content, being satisfied, not satisfied with the growth of your relationship with the Lord, but satisfied with what you have is enough. Like
Well, I think that's learning. I think this is for a lot of things in life. Again, there's nothing wrong with making a good salary, taking care of your family.
I'm trying to get
having
a good salary
vehicle.
for this podcast. You know
Yeah,
what
no, I
I'm
mean,
saying?
we
Hey,
use some sponsors.
subscribe, you know.
But no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with looking towards and being exciting about taking care of the things that you have, your house, your ministry, your job, whatever it is, and doing better. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it's a very healthy mindset. That's a very good thing to be able to have achievements, to have things that you look forward to. The thing is that if you don't learn how to be content without, you'll never learn how to be content with. And so it's one of those things that if I don't learn how to be content with the very little I have in my life, and it's not even just being content to that point, but it's like if I don't learn how to be a good steward of the little things I have, if I don't learn how to be gracious, even with just the little bit, be generous with just the little bit I have. If, one day God, I start making more money or whatever it is, I'll never become a generous person or a content person. And I'll always want the next thing. And I see how beautiful it is where I have friends that, it's funny. My mom used to, when we were younger, we lived a lot paycheck to paycheck. I remember her used to saying like, yeah, those people over there, they may have money, but who knows if they have happiness. And I'd be like, I grew up with this idea of like, oh, if you have a lot of money, you're not happy. And then I started getting older and I was like, I don't know, you could put me on a jet ski and I'd be freaking happy. But
I've been on a jet ski with you.
and they
was
make
awesome.
me, yeah. But what I realized was you don't have to have money for money to rule your life. I mean, you can have no money and all you're thinking about is how to get more money and how to get to a certain, and like, you don't have to have the money for money to rule your life. I mean, you see it all over. You see people trying to get out of situations where they're willing to do things that they normally wouldn't do that get them in trouble in certain ways because all they think about is getting more money even though they don't have it. And so the whole thing is, how do you be a good steward with what you have now, but how do you learn to be content and to be generous and, with financially or your time or whatever it is now whenever you don't have as much? Because if you wait, it's the whole idea of tithing. If you wait to get a job to start tithing, if you wait till you make a certain set salary to tithe, you'll never tithe because there will always be something else that could be. And it's one of those things that I'm getting a little older and I want my life. At the end of my life, no one's going to come to a funeral or remember me because I made so much money for myself. I want to be remembered and I want people to know that they're loved and cared for and all that type of stuff. And I think that starts again going into 2023 is just thinking about a lot of that.
But I won't know if you love me unless you leave me all your money in that will.
And again, I don't have much money.
Yeah. But like, if you did though, I just want like a little bit of it. I know you got nieces and nephews and family.
I'll give you the Jeep that you can sell for a couple $1,000.
No, it's like $300.
Are you serious? I can get a couple thousand for that thing.
That black Jeep?
Yes, dude.
How much did you get for the red one?
The red one I got like 900. But the red one was older, had about 120,000 more miles, didn't have a new motor in it, didn't have 4-wheel drive.
How much money have you put into that Jeep?
A good bit.
A good bit. Just to keep it
But
rolling.
people love those because those motors typically last for a very long time. It's one of the strongest motors the GM ever made. And people love like taking those and going off-roading with them and all that. And they're known for that. So I think it's not like I'm going to get some astronomical, like I've seen my year Jeep, because the '01 Jeep Cherokee is the last year that they made that model of that Cherokee. Now this was pristine condition, but had 180,000 miles pristine condition, and people were selling it for like 17,000.
Holy
Now again, my Jeep is not in pristine condition, but I can get a few thousand for it.
Do you remember my Jeep that I had?
Oh yeah, I remember your Wrangler.
My dude, I had this Jeep Wrangler, and it was souped up. And I was talking about it the other day, and someone was like, "You never had a Jeep?" I was like, "No, I did. I had like this really souped up."
You had it for like a year, right, or two?
I got it in the fall of 2016, and sold it in the fall of 2017. I had it for
a year. Okay.
Yeah. And I basically sold it, then bought a truck with it, and then sold the Kia. But I had this couple of people who were like, "You never had a Jeep?" And I was like, "I had a Jeep. I drove it. Yeah. I drove around Dahlonega, but I didn't drive it to Cumming a lot because it was terrible on gas." And I was like, "I'll just drive the Kia." So it didn't register in my head that they didn't know that, because I would just drive the Kia. And I was like, "No, I had a really cool Jeep. It was awesome." Like, but it was just not gas efficient, and it was kind of not my favorite vehicle. I'm not gonna anti-Jeep. Not my favorite vehicle.
Well, Jeeps are fun, like especially during the summer or fall, maybe late spring. You take the top off and you just go cruise around. You know what I'm saying? Like that's fun. Yeah. That's fun.
Also, so go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say that's. I'm hoping that maybe this summer I'll be able to buy a truck.
Oh, a truck.
Or something.
I didn't know if you better go another Wrangler route.
No. I don't have a Wrangler.
What about the Jeep truck? Do you? What, this is controversial.
Okay.
Jeep truck. Is it
Jeep
beautiful
truck,
or is it the ugliest thing you've ever
I
seen?
have seen some Jeep trucks that are really cool looking, but they cannot be stock. They have to be like a little lifted, a little bit bigger tires. They have to
have some customization.
They have to have some customs. I've seen some even with. I saw one that had like a bed cover on it, and it looked bad. It looked awesome.
Like it had the top on, so like you couldn't put things in the.
No, it actually had like the actual like the big cover. Why am I thinking?
You're
cover?
talking about it wasn't just the top part of it; it went all the way out.
Yeah. Okay. Like, anyways,
kind of like the Tacomas had that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like Will Maxwell had his.
Yeah. And I've seen some that look really cool.
Josh McKeever got one for his truck. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Shout out to Josh McKeever and Will Maxwell.
Yeah, it looks good.
And he's putting a mattress in his.
Yeah, I know.
He's trying to make it where he can like travel with it.
Yeah, he went down to Savannah, I think, stayed in it like about a month and a half ago or so. But I think they're cool, the Jeep trucks that are, if they have some modifications, because coming out stock, I just think they look silly.
They do look really silly. They look kind of like a Lego block. The thing that I like, I saw this guy posted.
They're expensive. I mean, cars right now are expensive anyways, but they're so freaking expensive.
But it was a custom Bronco, one of the new Ford Broncos.
Ooh, yeah.
And I like them better just stock. I mean, I think they look better than the Jeep truck. But this person looked nice and then just added some customs to it. I was like, holy crap, it looks so cool. But I bet it's like $125,000. I mean, it's got to be expensive.
The Bronco?
Well, all the customs. I mean, because like Tacoma right now, brand new Tacoma, or no, it was a 4Runner, 2023 4Runner was $74,000. I kid you not.
Not stock, right?
I didn't look. I was just looking at Milton Martin. It was like 70.
We need to do that after this episode.
We're gonna look it up.
We're gonna go look up stuff.
We're gonna have checking.
Well, I just know because cars have been ridiculous. But
it's expensive.
I also may be buying a house this summer.
Whoa!
So
Spoiler: 2023. Are you about to be a homeowner this year?
possibly. So
Possibly.
it,
What are we thinking?
what do you mean?
Mansion,
Whatever I can afford.
a pool.
Well, no.
Hot tub.
Here's my thing. I did see a house off of literally off of Ben Higgins that looked pretty cool. I'll show it to you later. But the whole thing is my parents. I'm so excited. My dad's finally retiring, truly retiring, and so they're moving back to Dahlonega, and I, along with James and about to be Josh McKeever, rent my parents' house from them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're moving back, and will be back in June. And I have no. They may be moving back into their house. They may buy something different.
Let them have their house back, Nathan.
Let them. That's not my. That is their house. There's no letting
No,
them.
they're gonna be like, "Oh, we want to move back," and you're like, "But I'll be homeless with James and Josh." Do not do that. Do not do that to Cindy and Ed.
Number one, you know I never would. Two, do you think they would care? No.
Ed would be like, "Bye."
Yeah. No, they have said that if I want to, I can live in their basement for a little while. And I don't really want to do that as a 35-year-old. I do love living with my parents because they coming out from when I first became the Wesley director, coming back from college, and living with them for about a year and a half, 2 years before they moved. I really loved. They're still my mother and father, and I still respect them as that, and I still very much respect them. But our relationship had morphed into like good roommates, and they were a lot of fun to live with because they didn't like treat me like a little kid. So it was really cool.
Did you ever like gang up on one of them? Like, as your roommates, we think you need to do this, and Ed's like, "No, the hell not. No, like, no, you're not
We would laugh about stuff like that and have a good time. But anywho, all that to be said is, I may have to live in the basement just for a couple months to save some money. I've always heard, and I don't know how true it is, I've always heard like wait to buy a new vehicle till after you buy a house, just for credit lines and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if I bought a vehicle sooner, so that way I have a few more months of payments, so my credit line goes back up. I don't know. I need to look into it more, but
That'd be cool though. Being a homeowner is fun because it's like it's your house.
oh yeah, no, that would be a lot of fun.
Do you want to get one in Dahlonega?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, if I can afford, I don't want to be too far away from Dahlonega just because I work here.
That's true too.
Yeah. But if I had to branch out a little further just for price point, if I couldn't afford something, I would.
Yeah, I don't imagine that any of the surrounding areas would be way cheaper.
No.
But living in the city, that would be like, okay. That house that's next to the Tuxedo place that they just renovated, it used to be the restaurant. I can't remember the name of the restaurant.
Yeah, I remember.
One of my classmates.
Wasn't Rick's. That's what it was.
Yeah. It looks gorgeous. Like, I mean, I drove by it today. Like all the paint on. I haven't seen the inside. But they've done a lot of work on the outside to make it look like colorful. It looks brand new, almost like new old style mansion. I don't know who owns it or what it's going to be.
Well, it's going to be city offices.
Oh, is that what it is?
Mm-hmm. The city bought it, and
because no one else could afford it.
Well, because the foundation, I mean, that thing was crumbling, and so it probably would have been cheaper just to demolish and then build back up. But because it's historic district and all that, it would have been a lot more. But no, they picked it up off the ground and moved it, which was really cool to watch that. But yeah, those are going to be city offices.
Well, because the church, when I was in college, the church had an opportunity to buy it, and when they went and toured it, and I was with Chris, and like there was different floors. They had like a giant walk-in refrigerator thing that was kind of weird. It looked kind of like more like a murder scene. And then you would go to the top floor, and then there was like this loft that was even higher up, but it was kind of like narrow. Like you went up there, and you could see at the very top of the house had like a little window thing, and it was really cool. It was kind of creepy at that point because it wasn't renovated. It's just been kind of like an original. Like someone's definitely been murdered in this house, but it was I think now it's going to be a lot better since they've renovated it, made it look
Oh,
nice,
for sure.
and they leveled it out and did all the cool stuff too.
Yeah.
But I was just driving by it, and in 2022, you opened up the Wesley House. And
We
it
did
was
open up
renovated.
the Wesley House. That was a big renovation.
What's the next 2023 of the Wesley House? You doing the next big project? You gonna get like a sunroof or something?
No,
or
bro.
A hot tub?
We did. I mean, after essentially 4 years of trying to raise money and then getting money raised and then going through a whole renovation process and all that, I'm just looking forward to us continuing to be in there and continue to grow the ministry and be able to be focused on that and raising money for that instead of trying to raise money and focus on everything that comes with remodeling a house.
Yeah.
But that was a big thing in 2022.
Listen to this though. I want to help Wesley out,
Okay.
and this is how we do this: hot tub. Now, how would you manage a hot tub with all the Wesley students? You have an advanced booking system where they
Okay.
can pay a fee to get higher up on the list, which is, fundraising, but it's also raising fund with a hot tub. And Jesus, I don't think Jesus ever experienced a hot tub, but he probably experienced a hot spring, and he probably really enjoyed that. And I just think we could do that for Wesley.
Donate a hot tub and we'll build it into the porch.
Where would you put a hot tub at the Wesley House?
I would extend. It would be kind of cool.
You would sell it to somebody else.
Like the street side.
Yeah.
If you just extended the porch, like not the street side where
Where the parking is?
not where the parking is, but the front side.
Oh, okay.
Try to extend the porch out to where you could just set it in that, and so that way you didn't have the overhang, so you could look at the stars.
Hot tub at night, but you just have so many Wesley
People would
students.
drive by, walk by, and just see this stinking hot tub. It'd be cool.
But it's for VIP members only.
Yeah.
How do I become a VIP at Wesley?
We could have a red rope in front of it.
yeah, very exclusive.
Yeah.
This is only for platinum members of the Wesley program. Oh man,
That would be a lot of fun.
that would be fun. And if you have any 2023 resolutions, let us know in the comments or DM us or on the post, because I want to know what people do. Because sometimes we start off really strong with 2023. Like we do a lot of things. We start off strong and then we kind of flutter out a little bit because life happens. But I think for me, I really hope we can live it out, hold each other accountable.
Absolutely.
Because we're all about intent and content, not content. Content. Being content, but not content. Wait, is this spelled the same? To be content with life, right? Like you said? Yeah. Is it spelled the same as content?
I'm pretty sure.
Wait, no way. It's spelled the same, but you just pronounce it different?
I'm pretty sure. You're the doctor. You let me know.
Yeah, well, that's called spell check. And someone right now is yelling at
probably
their phone or whatever, like, it's not spelled the same.
Yeah.
It's I'm content with my life versus let's create content.
I think it might be the same.
Oh my god, that's
We're
mind.
about to, and I may be wrong on that.
Do you know any other word that is spelled exactly the same,
Yeah.
but it can be pronounced differently?
Yeah.
What word?
Hold on, there's like a few different ones because I've done this.
Well, I know you can say
I'm
red with RE, like I read a book, but it's also the color red. But it's not spelled the same.
Spelled the same. Yeah.
But it sounds the same. I'm talking about spelled the same, but can be pronounced differently to mean two different words. I don't think that's possible.
No. It is. There's a few different ones.
Well,
Isn't
I don't have my phone, so I can't Google it, and we're not going to edit this out. So
read and read,
red,
like you read a book, but you read it
boom, there it is.
because it's they're both READ,
AD. Well, okay, I get half credit,
right? Because you don't do it's not REED.
Let's read books today. Class is READ.
Yeah, and so
I read a book. So it's past
which is
tense
READ.
And,
yeah.
present tense. Okay,
And
so
there's a few others because like
wait, what about?
I'm trying to think.
No, I'm gonna sound super stupid. I'm gonna say some word. It's like, oh, no, that's not how you spell it. Because I was about to say present and present, and I'm like, no, that's spelled differently. Wait, present and present. present is present. I got present.
Yeah. But present has 2 T's, right? Or 2 S's. Or is it present? And
Like if I bought you a present and I present Nathan today's podcast.
I am
Oh
so
my
bad.
God, yeah.
I'm so bad with spelling, so I don't know. We could be completely
We may
wrong.
be sounding like super dumb right now, and everybody's just
Probably.
yelling at us. So to close out today's
Yeah.
podcast, the first one of the new year, our first video podcast. Hopefully, so go check out our YouTube page, GWB. There should be literally like one video on there. We'll call it. I have an idea of what today's episode is going to be called. And subscribe, follow us on Instagram. But what is something, we're going to close it out with our nuggets of wisdom, like we always do on GWB. But what is like a nugget of wisdom that maybe relates a little bit to something that hopeful, something that you hope to foresee, not just with being content, but like maybe hopeful for like in 2024 when we do our first episode. What would you be like, man, that past year, I can't believe this happened? Or like, what do you hope that 2024 version saw in your 2023 version?
I'm hoping for myself, and what I would hope to speak over others is...
Yeah, do both, yeah.
For myself, I'd hope the 2024 me would look back and say, wow, you were able to live into every day. Being like just taking each day as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wasn't so far ahead of even right now thinking about, okay, I'd like to buy a newer vehicle or a house or all that. Good things to think about and plan for and do all that, but that I could be as present as I can be because years are just going by so fast. So I'm hoping my 2024 self could look back and say, wow, Nathan, you were present. Mm-hmm. Every day where you were at with who you were with, and you were present in the moment that you had. And to speak over, I would say I want to speak over that same thing for all of us.
Yeah.
In that, you know, some people are going to have New Year's resolutions. Some people are going to be very strong. Some people are going to falter. Some people are going to, you know, it go back and forth. My hope is that we can all be present in the days that we have this year, and being present with the people that we're with, and not being so much in a rush to get to a certain place, whether in life or whatever it is in 2023, that by 2024 we can look back and say, man, I slowed down and I was present and I was with people.
Mm. I like all that.
What would you say, Ben?
I like all that though. That's really good. I'm just kind of thinking about that just for myself, trying to live into each day. Because like this upcoming year, my really good friend, my really good childhood best friend, Trey McMillan's getting married in June. And then my buddy Winston, who's been on the podcast. Well, Trey's been on the podcast too, but Winston has been on the podcast. He's also getting married. So that's like really 2 big events that are happening this year that I'm really excited about. And also, I have a niece now. I don't know if I've talked about that on the podcast yet. I have a niece. I'm an uncle, and she's gorgeous and wonderful. And so I want to be a really good uncle. I want to say I want to be present in her life, but part of me is like, is she gonna remember anything? She's not even a year old yet. Not that means I want to be. Well, look, hold on. That makes me sound horrible.
Okay, here we go. Ben doesn't want to be a part of his niece's life. Will, you listen to that?
Will, we love you. I definitely want to be part of my niece's life, but part of me goes like, it's not like I can go take her to the zoo or something. I'm just like, let's go say hey to her and hold her for like 15 minutes ago. All right, here you go. Go poop somewhere
That's
else.
important.
It is. And I'm sure one day when I have a kid, I'll be like, oh my God, this is the most important thing ever. I'm just not there yet. But I want to be a better uncle, or I just want to be a good uncle. Not better like I was bad, but I just want to be a good uncle. Is a goal of mine. That sounds kind of shallow. But I also just want to experience freedom. You know, like say, man, like you really lived into. Maybe it's the same thing, similar vein of what you were saying. But just be free. But also want to be like, man, you were vulnerable that year. Vulnerable as in just letting your heart open to other people, whether it be a girl in a relationship, whether it be with my friendships, whether it be, you know, just with my family. but just be more vulnerable and like be courageous about that, and be bold about it. And so, and not to be shy or timid, because like you said, like we've had two very close friends of ours go through. We just had a lot of stuff happen towards the end of 2022, and it's like I want to be more vulnerable because that creates, hopefully, in my mind, more intimate relationships, deeper connections, more growth. And I don't want to go, I didn't do that. Why? Why didn't you do that?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. Like, well, that's not really a good reason. Like so just be encouraged. And if people around you are not allowing you to be vulnerable and to be more of who God's called you to be, then recognize that those are not the people that you need to be around. That's not just for myself, that's for everybody. And I guess my advice for everybody would just to be kinder.
Or maybe it's those people that you can, if they're not wanting to go to those places, don't feel that you have to go to those places with them. Find people that you can go to those places with.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it for sure. So just be kind to one another. I think this world right now is so divisive and hurtful. And I feel like what really hurts my heart is that there's joy in causing the hurt. I feel like a little bit in a lot of different ways. Where if it's just like, oh man, I wanted to wear purple socks and you wanted to wear green socks, you hurt my feelings today. Okay, that's not really.
Yeah.
But there's like, I want to wear purple socks because I know that it hurts Nathan because he's wearing green socks. Like, what? Why do you get joy out of that? And so people want to be kind. I don't know.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for listening.
First one of the year.
Thanks for having me. Not the last one.
Not the last one.
Definitely more than 10 this year episodes.
Doable.
Less than 52. That's one a week.
Very doable.
Very doable. That's my goal. That's the podcast goal. More than 10.
Perfect.
Less than 52. Well, actually, 51. 51's our goal. One a week. But it gives me 1 week off.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, if you
like next week, if I forget to do an episode, I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
But
that's why you just got to pre-record.
Yes, pre-record. Yeah, we're about to do 47 episodes tonight. 47 hours.
We got a long day.
We're like, oh, how was your St. Patrick's Day? Like, I felt lucky.
God, how much fun would that be? We just have different outfits and we just do 52 episodes.
Just like behind the cameras is like costumes. Like, oh man, we didn't fix that lighting issue that we were supposed to fix. Man, what about that presidential election? Oh man, that was crazy. Who won? The candidate
in
won.
2023.
just going, man, that Super Bowl, wild. And no one like just to do an episode. Anyways, I'm sorry, I could go for like 10 minutes. Like, man, your birthday was great last week, man. How does it feel to be 36? We love you. Thank you for listening to The Great White Buffalo. Make sure you subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and now YouTube. We love you, and we appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next time on GWB.
Wandering through the great plains of life, things move fast, sometimes a blur. Don't you let this bumpy road separate you from the herd. And when you think the day is done, the sun is getting low, we're all looking for something rare. The Great White Buffalo. The Great White Buffalo Podcast with Ben Mayfield.